just kind of looking. Here's our 2013 practice script. Andy Rice, he was our D coordinator in CLEP. We had about 5 coaches that were, legit coaches, and we felt that, after this year, 2013, that we could kind of make the transition and go to 2 platoon, because me and Andy, we were driving. I drove a half hour every day to practice and half hour back, and Andy was driving 45 minutes to and back. So, I mean, if you look at it, here's just a Monday, we weren't getting done till 6:40. Then you go to Tuesday, we're not getting done till 6:45. Wednesday, even later yet, we're at 6:50. So it's just a lot of time. And when we talked about it that whole off season. How can we, number one, compete with Wanakee? Because we just didn't quite have the oomph to just last with them. And when you're playing guys 2 ways and they're practicing for a ridiculous amount, we just talked about this last night. We're looking at this and it's like, that's a ridiculous amount of time to practice. And we're looking at it, when we did that in that off season and we talked about it and we needed to make a change, and 2 platoon is what we did. So, we cut it almost down by 3 hours. Just kind of start here by going through a 2-a-days training camp practice. So we would completely separate. Our 2 platoon was completely separate except for the second half of practice. We never went the long and short day. It was always the short day. So we would do the hour and a half, take a break, hour and a half for the second part. So, you got your meeting and all that stuff. So we got an hour and a half, and this first half was just all offense. And I'm only going to talk about the offensive stuff because I wasn't part of planning for the defense, so I'm not going to talk about that. But so offensively, we're just, this is what we did for our first half. It's, and significantly amount of more time. If you look at this, just for offense, here we got 3 hours of offense per week, and then we got a weekly schedule. You got 3.5 hours per week. So you're adding extra time, obviously, by going 2 platoon. And just going through that whole process of making the practice plans, we were able to do so many more things that we weren't able to do the years before and practice a shorter period of time. So I'm not going to talk too much about like the actual stuff. I'll talk about the drills a little bit when we get later into, more recent stuff. But so the first half practice, that's all offense, all group stuff. We had, and this was a chance we had. So offensively, we only had 4 coaches coaching offense at this period of time. So if you're worried about, you need more coaches to do it, we made it work with 4 coaches. It was me and Trav. We're the 2 varsity coaches. Trav coached O-line, I coached QBs. And then we had our JV offense coordinator. He was coaching wide receivers. And our freshman freshman offense coordinator was coaching running backs. So for this first 20 minutes of Indy, we had freshman through senior. And we were able to, I was able to coach the freshman quarterbacks, which was amazing. So I got 4 years to work with these kids, to kind of like set them up for what I wanted, like our offense and what I wanted them to look like down the line. And same with Trav, and every position, we got to coach those guys for 4 years. So, and then we'd separate, obviously, and those guys got their own time, and just going, this is just as 2 days. So we got just a ton of time with 9 through 12 for, 2 weeks.
Just to explain so that FedEx period, we called that's our ground and air. So Tim is going to take all the perimeter players. I take the O-line and the running backs. And during that time, we're working our run game with our running backs that are playing quarterback. And so I get a chance to kind of see, you can't ever have enough depth. And so, and also you kind of see if we could, that kind of became a wildcat package. So during that time, that 10 minutes, it's running backs playing quarterback, and then our O-line working while the quarterbacks and receivers are working with Tim.
And we were basically just doing the routes on area at that point, and it was freshman through senior. And, we tried to mix it up where it would be freshman QBs throwing to freshman receivers and whatnot, but we're running all the same concepts. So our entire program is practicing together at that point. Then we get to the break. We have the break, second half. We did a team tackle period, which Andy got from Wally Kaczynski. Can't pronounce his name.
From St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. So it's the whole tackle period where you're tackling bags and all that and whatnot. But anyways, so get down. That was the only time we did special teams, was that second period, or second half, I should say. And then we do about 15 minutes of Indy again, or I shouldn't say Indy, I should say offense/defense separate. And then when we get after that 15 minutes, it was O and D working together. And because we didn't have enough numbers to completely separate the practice for doing team reps and getting good looks, we would come together. And so this Skelly versus D, that would be, our offense working versus our defense playing, during training camp, we'd just go against our defense. So they're getting double the reps and we're getting double the reps, that whole deal. So then we get into practice for a regular season. So this was, Monday. The Monday would be, we had varsity lifting to start, and our JV was in Klep's room, and they're working on their film and game plan for the week. And then we would switch, after our lift was done, and then our varsity offense and defense would go to their separate rooms, do their game plan, and then our JV would lift. So another nice benefit of that was we cut down on practice time, and we added lifts into our practice format. So we had Monday and Wednesdays that we actually lifted. So again, then Monday was a completely all O day. We got mess drill, pat and go, key drill. Our key drill was basically like, I got some video I'll show in a little bit here, but it's just our way of going through our key screens or bubble screens, whatever you want to talk, those RPOs. Then we went through perimeter, run install, red zone, and team air. So, we're off the field at 6:25. So shorter than what we were before the 6:40 that we were with one platoon. So then we got Tuesday, working our special teams. Again, we're starting the day and it's all separate, so we got right here, we got an hour worth of practice. It's just all O to start the day. And then our Tuesday was our group periods. So we had Skelly O and Skelly D. So again, Skelly would work our offense versus our defense, and our defense would be our scout that week. And then when it was defense, our offense would become the scout O. And then same thing for inside run. And we tried to work it out so we were always doing best on best. And then those guys had a break, and our twos would go versus twos, just to give us the best look possible for a week of practice.
And the one thing, that gets jacked up when you're going to platoon is because you're going one-on-ones and twos versus twos, the intensity and competitiveness is increased to the point where we had to dial guys back because they were keeping track of the wins and losses on their own, and then there's a little bit of smack talk that which is great until someone gets overly sensitive. So
I was usually on Wednesdays doing red zone. We were very competitive.
Right. And so, that's the great thing about the two platoon. The downside of two platoon is, and we found this out in 2014, you know, being Division III high school, and we're all probably, you know, in a similar boat, is that you just don't have the, no matter how much how many reps a kid gets, it's tough getting blood out of a stone. And so if there's injury, if there's suspensions, now, because you don't have kids dual training, you know, we found that out in the second round of playoffs versus Reedsburg, that you know, we're throwing a kid out there at defensive back that had no business playing varsity football at that point. He just wasn't ready. So that's unless you have, you know, 150 players, the even with 120, you still lack depth in the two platoon once you get to the third, fourth guy.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not gonna go through all this stuff. Just, I mean, I know we're going along here, but you know, Wednesday was basically our all team stuff. So it was, you know, our 1-0 versus 1D. We worked on our third down, and same for defense. It was defense third down, and then we worked our red zone. So it was a shorter practice, but yet it was very intense. 1-0 versus 1D and 2-0 versus 2D. And that's just kind of where we finished at. So, I mean, going back to it, we saved quite a bit of time. I mean, if you look at it, it's almost 3 hours worth of time just going to the two platoon. And I know Andy's on here watching right now, so we'll give him a little shout out here. He took that whole plan and they've made it their own at Wanakee, tweaking it, and obviously they've been doing really well since he's joined. Not that they weren't doing well before, but you know, they've been to 2 state titles in the last 3 years and a semifinal. Just taking that plan and making it their own.